Okay, I'm here today with Frank LeBeau. We go back many, many years to the work of body electronics and spent many, many, many weeks together in point holding intensives with Doug Morrison from about, I think about 2002 to 2007 for us. I think that was sort of our time period.
Yeah.
And there was an instructor's course in there somewhere too, I think, Frank, wasn't there? Where
Oh yeah.
we did the long haul in that. And then
Yes.
there was another bit of a long haul in 2005 when we both attended the Visualization and Consciousness course in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Well, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, with Doug. And to my knowledge, that was the last Visualization and Consciousness course that was ever given on the planet. So
they're at the inception or the end, anyway.
Yeah, the Alpha and the Omega.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing I want to share a little, just a memory that I have of you, where when we would be doing point holding, this is for people, I want to give kind of a basis of understanding too for the people that are going to be watching this, that when we went to a body electronics intensive, we were doing very intense work of what we called point holding, which is a very particular form of acupressure that you hold one point, or maybe more than one on one body, but you're sustaining one point for hours at a time. And that produced and produces, if people are still doing it, a dissolution of the crystalline structure electrically in the body, and then the memory and the emotion and the word patterns come forth for us to be able to work with. So one of the things that I remember about that with you, Frank, is that you really stayed the course. And, we would all be wrapping up, whether it would be a morning session, an afternoon session, we'd be sort of wrapping up, and there would be you still holding the point and getting every bit you could for the person that was on the table. And I really, I just remember you just being so steadfast and committed to doing that, no matter how it felt for us as point holders, because for anybody who hasn't participated in body electronics, and I also do, I want to say here too, that in the Gnostic Way, I have merged a lot of the teachings from body electronics, including the point holding. I'm not calling it point holding, that's a body electronics term, but there is a sustained acupressure that does exactly the same thing, what we're looking for in
right.
editing our
it channels the energy, and that energy, if processed properly, does a lot of good. That's for sure. Removes things that are needing to be removed. Yeah. So do you have anything to say at the moment, Frank? Do you want to reminisce a little bit about the body electronics time? Sure. I just remembered as being a very focused and intense experience. Intense in the sense that people were very much interested in their own healing and helping others with healing, and that it worked on multiple levels. And it was like doing 5 years worth of counseling therapy in the span of a couple of weeks.
Right.
So it was, and it also seemed very vast to me. I had a particular interest in physical health and nutrition, and just maximizing my own health, my own vitality. But at the same time, it worked on in the emotional and psychological and spiritual realms. So it was very all-encompassing, and that's what I think that made it such a charged experience for the participants.
Mm.
I haven't experienced anything quite like that.
No, it is definitely unique in its approach and effect. One of the things that I was thinking about this weekend, as we're approaching this on this Monday morning, since we haven't spoken in approximately 15 years, I was kind of reliving some of those times that, those beautiful times that we spent as a group. It was always different people, but there were some of us, you and I being a couple of those people that just kept coming back. And one of the memories I had was early in the morning before the lecture would start. We would often have a few minutes prior, and we would be saying how many times we threw up that morning, or how many, and really kind of almost bragging about how our healing crises were really formulating. And, that's something that is, that willingness, that level of willingness that it actually took for people to be at an intensive, just I was just having a really enjoyable time remembering some of those things.
Reminds me of the line from Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf, where they attended a magic theater, and the subtitle under magic theater was "For Madmen Only." It was definitely intense, and maybe not for everyone.
Right.
But for those who participated, it was a positive experience, and well worth the effort.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Not only for ourselves, but like you said, for the others. It's really about the service and being able to give of yourself even when it's extremely uncomfortable. In this form of acupressure, it becomes very uncomfortable for the person that's holding the points. So just moving past our own discomfort in order to serve is an excellent practice that is sort of inherent within the work. So, yeah. Okay, so let's, I'm launching these new videos. They're all new to me, that, working on even getting the Zoom videos up and running on YouTube, and it's all an experiment for me at this point. So I really appreciate you, volunteering and really being present with this. It's really, really beautiful.
It's my pleasure.
And, yeah. So the Gnostic Way work is a combination of body electronics, Ayurveda, the elder teachings that I've been given in my life, and Kriya/Bhakti Yoga, which I still practice and have spent many years in study and practice with that. So I took, whatever I felt really after, years of contemplation, of course, I merged some of the teachings to make what I call the Gnostic Way.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a little story, Frank, about that, how it got the name. So I was visiting.
I was wondering, that was my first question.
Oh, was it? Oh, great. Well, I was visiting two of my sons, and who are now great adults, beautiful men. And one of my sons, Aubrey, said to me during one of the visits, thanks for bringing us up in the Gnostic Way. So I thought about that for a moment, and then I said, well, what does that mean to you? And so then he replied something to the effect of, you always gave your input, which, anybody that knows me, maybe ad nauseum, but, I always gave the input, but then I always also said to my children that, first of all, it's their choice. Anything that they conclude is their choice, and that choice should reside within. And so to always go within and find, the answers or whatever whatever we're seeking, is to go within and find that. So on the plane back, I thought about that, and then I kept hearing in my head, the Gnostic Way, the Gnostic Way. And of course, my guidance, my inner guidance, had been encouraging me for many years to do my own work, to prepare it, so that because many years, is, if people know my work prior, I was teaching Jumbo Melchizedek's work, and then of course Body Electronics, which was John Whitman Ray's work, and other works before that in the yogic realm. So so it was really just haunting me that I had to put together my own work, or what I'm taking full responsibility for. Yeah. So then I heard the Gnostic Way on the plane, and when I got back, it was one of the first things I did was to launch the website and really start formulating the writings, and then now here we are with just this very beginning onset of the videos, which I think are important. Yeah. According to my children, they're very important.
Yes. There were a group of philosophers, mystics in the first century who were focused on the teachings of Christ. Mm-hmm. And is there any connection to that? Because that does refer to that period of time,
right,
before Christianity even became the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Uh-huh. I can respond to that personally. For many years, I was very interested in the teachings of the Essenes. So,
right.
So in that way, I feel a very deep connection there to because the Essenes came before that being Yeshua ben Joseph and Miriam the Magdalene. So, so the Essenes were essentially teachers to those humans on earth, and mm-hmm. of course many others. And then I think the Gnostic Way, or the Gnosticism that is connected with that being we call Jesus, or the Christ teachings, they're very personal. So I'm not ignoring the fact that the Christ teachings are inherent within the word Gnostic, and I embrace that, the light that all beings have within them, the Christ light. So those teachings are very important, and they do find their way into my work. So I was also raised a Christian, and living on a farm in a very rural community, where the church was really the place that was not only our place of worship, but it was our entire social life. At least that's how I saw it as a child.
Sure. So that often happens in rural communities.
Yes, and we were in the church 3 times a week, at least. Right. 4 times if it was our turn to clean. So it was a very big part of our life, and also a very great part of my learning, and being able to step forward. Back, I was born in 1959, so in the 60s when I was growing up, things were changing rapidly, and I stepped forth. Even I remember as a young girl in Sunday school disagreeing with certain things that were being said, or if I saw something, it was very patriarchal in that time within that church, and I saw very clearly that there was this masculine dominance that really didn't feel good to me. So I was often bringing that to the forefront. So, you know, there's just so many aspects. It's really about truth, really about bringing the truth to light.
Right.
And that's, you know, throughout the ages.
Well, the word gnosos means to know or to understand. So it's about knowledge and understanding. So
Yes.
religions, I think, sometimes facilitate that truth, and sometimes they obscure it, as we know.
Yeah. Or bring it to the surface. Bring
Right.
it up and bring it to the surface. Just, you know, like in body electronics, that's what we're looking to do, is to bring things forth so that we can see the truth and edit it where needed.
So John Whitman Ray was the person who developed body electronics, and he was certainly a dynamic person. What would you like to share about John and his background?
Well, I can tell.
He was a naturopathic doctor.
Yes.
And he I think he also completed the training to be a chiropractor, but never actually practiced chiropractic. But he wanted the knowledge, and so he was highly educated. He was an engineer who worked for Boeing. So a very dynamic and colorful person. What would you like to share about him?
Well, I have to tell a little story about that, because John and I didn't meet in the human body. So I'll tell you, I'll try to make it as short as possible. But the way that I was introduced to body electronics, my children were very young, and we were living out, again, in a very rural community out on the farm. And a man would often come through our area. I had advertised myself as an Ayurvedic therapist. So I had a naturopath and myself. We had a practice together, and it was, you know, widely advertised. So this man, through that advertising, found me and would often call me and come for a visit, and we would put him up and feed him, and he would bring, you know, news of the world with him, and it was a very beautiful friendship that developed over the years. So I think it was 1999. It was in January, and we were in the midst of a tremendous snowstorm where we couldn't even leave the house. I mean, we didn't have a great long laneway, but it was, we weren't getting out. The roads were closed, and, you know, we were seeing drifts, you know, up around our shoulders. So, and blowing snow, Southwest Ontario. And I looked out the front window, and I saw these headlights at the end of the lane, and you could barely see them for the blowing snow. And so I thought, well, we better look and see what's going on, if somebody's stuck or needs help. So I go out the door, and here I see this figure in the snow bouncing through, and it was this man that I'm speaking of. And he came in, and we put him in front of the fire and dried him off. And he was so excited because he had found something, that he had a vision. He was living in Vancouver at the time. He told me he had a vision that he was to share this work with 4 people in Canada. So, and I was one of them. So he had, you know, once the weather cleared, he had you know, John's books, the Logic and Sequence books, all the videotapes that then were on VHS, you know, all of the order forms, and we were, you know, signing up for minerals and enzymes from Enzymes International, and he was really enthusiastic about it. So I had just begun, you know, I hadn't been in practice for very long, and I had been studying Ayurveda for 8-9 years, and I just wasn't in any kind of a mindset to begin something new. So I said to him that I would be happy. He was kind of a traveling salesman of holistic things.
Yeah.
So he would go through over to the US to Detroit, and then they would come back through. So we'd usually see him coming and going. So he wanted to share this work with my community, with the holistic community in my area. So I agreed to gathering some people, and when he came back through, I would have a little, I'd make a space for him in my home to do that. So he, set it up. There was maybe 20 people that came, and set it up in my living room and he gave a little talk, and then he put the VHS tape in, and I was in the kitchen making tea because I really wasn't very interested. So I remember the actual moment in time when I'm pouring the water into the teapot and I hear John's voice booming in my living room, and this electrical current went straight into me, and I don't think I swore out loud, but it was the knowing that I had to surrender to it and really pay attention. So that started me, just that one moment started me on the next 20 years of my life was dedicated to that work.
Auspicious beginning.
Yes.
Doesn't happen every day.
No. And after that, I had been, when I started to go to Doug, let's rewind a little bit. So in 2001, John was going to come back to North America for the first time in 12 years. He was going to teach a body electronics instructor's course in Alberta, Canada. So I signed up.
He was in Australia.
He was in the Rarotonga still in New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, so I devoured the books. I was on the full nutritional program, taking lots of liquid minerals every day, and I was in a full healing crisis for at least a year or two, without any external instruction of any kind, except for John in my dream time. And almost every night he would come in my dream time and give me the answers to my questions. So I was writing him letters. I was writing him letters, sending them to New Zealand. And so then then I was given the information of this instructor's course, which I immediately registered for. And that was going to be, I believe, in July of 2001. And then the day John passed, Doug sent an email out, April 21st, 2001, that he was gone on to had passed on. So I was just stimulated into this intense grief, I remember flailing around on my bed, just, crying and crying. And that was the first time that I had a connection with John in waking time. And so he started talking to me. I could hear him verbally. I would often have a huge violet orb on my left shoulder, and I often, I would feel him sort of behind me to my left for many years as I started my teaching career in body electronics, and that faded away after the VNC, after 2005. That really began to fade away, and there was a time when I was ready, independent enough and ready to be able to move forward. He was then able to move on. So it
Yeah.
was our connection was a very powerful one, but it wasn't of the physical body.
Very interesting. I didn't know that you had had that experience.
Can you tell me about your experience, Frank, with John?
Well, I never met John either.
Mm.
I had started body electronics with a woman named Marianne Merman in Loveland, Colorado.
Mm.
And she owned an herb business, and I went to her to get vitamins and herbs, and she told me about this process called body electronics, and she invited me to join her and a couple of other of her friends and explore the possibility.
Mm.
And did that for several years, and then when I met Doug, or heard about Doug's courses, I signed up for those, and took the intensives and just really delved into it thoroughly.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, Doug is a master lecturer.
Oh yeah, he can. He has a lot to say. All good.
Yeah, very precise. Very precise.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm recommending his book, to anyone who wants to do any internal work. There's so many gems in how we heal.
Doug's book, How We
Doug's
Heal.
book, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, How We Heal. It's in publication. The Logic and Sequence series, I have free of charge on my website. So they're downloadable on my website if anybody wants to go into the metaphysical aspects of body electronics. Working, even if they're interested in my work in the Gnostic Way. They're used, you know how it was when we started in body electronics. We had to read many, many, many books, and and Doug was always adding books to that, and so there were, I just got such a great education just in the books that were required. And what I've noticed now in sort of, in this 2020 reality, it started maybe about 5 years ago. People weren't really interested in reading anymore. And hence, I think, the people are listening to things, they're seeing, they're looking at the videos, they're hearing things more auditory than reading. So, but if people are still interested in reading those very intense books, they're there.
What are some of the fundamental principles or practices of body electronics? What is it exactly? Why is it called body electronics?
Are you talking about the Gnostic Way, or
as you perceive it, as you practice it?
Okay. Well, we start out, it's first and foremost holistic. So exactly like body electronics. So, and it goes in the same order. So the physical foundation is very important. Having I did a little video yesterday on it, so I won't say them again, but the sort of the 5 basic components of nutrition that are required for the hormonal vitality, which is extremely important to the electricity of the body, and just basically the unfolding of the healing crises. So all the principles that are in body electronics are also in the Gnostic Way. Because they're all truth principles. They're all ancient principles. The things that I changed in the Gnostic Way were some of the languaging. So this what I call the sexualized language, so that we're looking at, there was a lot of sort of old sort of patriarchal language being used, and I'm attempting to upgrade that into more of our holistic understanding of sexuality. So that was one of the ways that I wanted to change it. Also, there was a lot of God speak. So, and that's something that I felt really strongly about changing in the Gnostic Way. So, just to sort of remove ourselves from ideas and entrenched patterns that have developed over the last few hundred or thousands of, a few thousand years, and sort of letting that go, in order to go within and do the inner work. Not getting sort of wrapped up in ideas or concepts externally, to really, to remove those as much as possible. We're using words, we're, using the dualistic format of especially the English language, which is extremely dualistic. So we're bringing that awareness to the language. So there were just different aspects that I wanted to change with that, making just a freer landscape in order to go in and find really what's there individually. Yeah, without any sort of preconceived notions. So it's like the format is made holistically. So the physical is the foundation. The physical foundation catapults us into the emotional body. We work with the emotional body in the same 7x7 level, the 49 levels of emotion that we used in body electronics, I use in the Gnostic Way. It's an excellent, ancient, very, very beautiful and simplistic way to traverse the emotional body and have some points within it, touchstones within it as we're moving through those levels. As when we get to certain levels, we can be lost in the emotion in a very deep healing crisis. So I really took great comfort in knowing that, okay, so I'm in emotional pain, and I have to, keep working, keep transmuting, because I know the next level, I'm going to jump into a whole new reality, and that is into enthusiasm and into, into love. So it was really just inspirational for me to have that 49 level guideline, to be able to it really encouraged me to keep moving, keep going. So that's the emotional body. The mental body, again, the rules change. So when we get through some of the emotional body, my violet flame started showing up in my internal space when I was in anger. So when I got to the level of anger, which resonates with the thyroid, when I got to that place, which I stayed in for quite a while, I stayed there and really worked for many years actually in that level. I would get to the painful level of anger, and then I would seem to loop and cycle a little bit in anger. So it took me a lot of work to really bounce myself forward into full-on emotional pain. So with anger, pain, and enthusiasm, through those three, what we call the upper emotions, I was finding the internal violet flame, which increasingly made its presence known as I moved upscale in the emotional body. So then so what I'm saying there is, it doesn't take a full transmuted emotional body to find the violet flame. It's really about where the inner vision comes into much more clarity is here in the thyroid, when we look at the patterns of power and control that we've involved ourselves in, and edit and transmute. So as Doug would say, the rules of the game change once we move into the mental body, which is after we get through a lot of our own personal emotional pain. The mental body, then at the painful level of pain, the dualistic format really presents itself, as well as the full flaming Christ light that comes from within, is available with that in measure to do that transmutation. So the rules of the game change from the transmuting force of what I call the three powers, which is love, forgiveness, and gratitude in the emotional body, to the power of light as a transmuting factor in the mental body. So all of those things remain the same. These are Gnostic teachings, and then the spirit. When we have the transmutation capacity of the emotional and mental body, what I find is just the opening to spirit. It just continuously opens and is, and it's just at that point to remain present, just being present, to the spiritual realm, which is of course within first, and then we get to have experiences externally, but those experiences reside within.
How would you describe this spiritual element, this move from the mental body into the spiritual body?
Well, the spiritual body, and if you look at it in terms of fields around, our electromagnetic fields around the body, that's one way to view it. So very close to the body, we have our emotional field. And then the next one will be our mental field. And then the field out further than that is our spiritual field. So it's kind of like the encasement. We get to have these physical, emotional, and mental experiments and realizations, and we're encased in the spiritual body. There's spheres around us. If you're familiar with the flower of life work that Drunvalo brought forth, and many people before him, of course, there's been flower of life seared into stone all over the world that are tens of thousands of years old. That is a sphere. The flower of life is our sphere, our electromagnetic sphere of and there's always this. If you look at any two-dimensional pictures of the flower of life, you'll always see one more sphere on the outside of that sphere. So everything inside the flower of life, that all those geometries contain everything in the third dimensional realm, all of creation in the third dimensional realm. There's this other sphere around it that's the encasement. So it's the spiritual, you can say spiritual encasement or grace that keeps that encased. So it's a form of grace that allows us to do what we need to do in this physical realm, and piercing that spiritual encasement means that we do then experience the 0 ohms resistance. That's an actual piercing of that encasement. It opens things up in a whole new way. So what I discovered is you can't stay there for very long. You can glimpse it, you can pierce it, and you can step out of time and space for, if you want to stay in the body, for a very momentary experience, and then that encasement recapitulates, and then we are back in the physical, emotional, mental body to continue our work.
I see. Okay. I'm not quite sure what to ask you next.
What do you feel, Frank? What do you feel about the spiritual, like in terms of your life, in terms of how you experience it?
Well, I don't know that I can articulate that. I guess I feel it in connection with other people, and especially with the living world. You know, I work as a gardener, landscaper, and it's that that connection of how I interact with other life forms that seems most most vivid or most alive for me. I don't know if I could, you know, say anything in detail about that. Just that there's a certain flow of energy that is moving in both directions, and it just seems to happen naturally.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, the earth provides us such a beautiful opportunity to find that beauty. Yeah.
I want to touch on this this idea of John was a naturopath, and naturopaths often say that the body will naturally heal if something is wrong on any level, physical, mental, emotional, that it there's a process for healing. Just like when we get a cut, you know, the physiology and the anatomy of the body just naturally goes into healing right away to seal that wound and to regrow the cells and to completely heal that so that it goes back to the way it was before the accident. And on these other levels, that same thing must happen. But just like when you're, say, cultivating a plant, you have to have the right conditions for that plant to reach its full genetic potential. You have to have good fertile soil, and with you know, a living soil with microorganisms in it and the right fertility, the right amount of moisture and the right amount of oxygen. The roots have to be able to penetrate deep into the soil to anchor the plant and to get nutrients and water. And in the right environment, plants thrive. And so it's just really a matter of understanding how nature is working and creating the right conditions for that to happen. And then the plant will flourish. And I think we human beings are the same way. How do you see that same process working for people that you work with, or what would you share or advise people about how that can be transferred to ourselves, and how that same process and what are the conditions that have to be in place for human beings to reach those higher potentials that you were talking about?
Well, there are things that we can control, and there's things that we cannot control. So that's the first distinction I see. So whatever we can control, which is what goes in our mouth, what goes on our body, what we breathe to some extent. You know, we do have many places on the planet that are heavily toxic in the air. So there are those things that we can control. So we really can make the best effort for ourselves physically in order to provide that environment, that base environment, that foundation. So beyond that, then there is the higher laws. So you're getting into sort of higher and lower laws. And you know, if we provide the body with everything that we can to be continuously healthy in the physical realm, then we're providing that lower law that the higher law can work with. So that's where a lot of, I was contemplating lately, especially in this 2020 time frame, that I take great comfort in knowing that the human body and all bodies of all beings on the planet regenerate and may regenerate naturally if, like you say, given the right environment. So we do have a lot of things to clean up on the planet, but the detoxification is extremely important, as well as what we put in. It's what we get out of the body, what we take out of the body. So I really feel like if we can provide the body with really good nutrition and detox regularly, those are things that we can do, that we can control, then we move forward into a willingness to really face ourselves, face our emotional suppressions, face the things that we're fearful of, that we're feeling the grief that has been stored somewhere in our field, feeling our emotional pain, our angers, our frustrations, the apathies. When we get willing to feel those, then higher law starts to kick in. So, and then it just goes, it keeps going. So the emotional body is the lower law to the mental body being the higher law. So we just keep moving forward. It's a holistic process of evolution. And we just, as human beings, we get to enjoy that. Well, you got company.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I have a dentist appointment. So
Okay.
I'm going.
Okay.
Aw. Is that your partner, Frank?
Yeah.
Aw. Here's my partner. Here, Luna, come. Luna, come. This is my partner. This is Luna.
Oh, looks cuddly.
She's a beauty, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now you want to stay up. Yeah. So does that give you some kind of an understanding about how I feel about that with the?
Sure. I didn't know if you wanted to go more into the specifics.
Yeah. I think the point of that is to not get too focused on the physicality. If we do, we're sort of trapped in a place that doesn't have a whole lot of evolution happening. So until we start facing those higher laws, then we can loop and loop and loop and loop, attempting to make the physicality or that hologram as, that's the things that we used to think about 20, 30 and before us in body electronics 50 years ago, using the word hologram, now is being commonly used. Do you know that, Frank? People are using that now, and it's widely accepted.
Oh.
Which I think is awesome. So that the physical hologram that we're putting out there, to be focused on the external reality and trying to tweak this and tweak that. I mean, there's things that we do need to do, of course, but when our attention gets fixated externally, then we start looping in the physical. And so that's the reason why the Gnostic Way, that first and foremost principle, is internal. You have to go internal first, and then basically enjoy the externalized hologram that we have, that we're working with in the moment. And and that loops back. So we get to enjoy it one way or the other, however it presents itself. One of the principles in body electronics and in the Gnostic Way is, we get stimulated externally to look internally, if we don't go there first. So if we forget about the internal process, if we've forgotten that it comes from the inside out, then the externalized hologram will pressure us and force us back into that internalized processing. But personally, I choose I need a little reminder every once in a while. I will admit to this, but I really do my very best, and I'm very willing to look internally, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remember all of the beauty, how just how we're shown the beauty that we can create something internally, and then that beauty is shown externally. It's an inside. We're living in an inside-out world. We often forget that because the external world is so seems so real, seems so permanent.
Yeah. And the external world seems to be very challenged these days with climatic change and with large fires happening and this worldwide pandemic. Is there anything about that that you give special attention to from your perspective, doing the work you do with the Gnostic Way? I mean, is there a particular way that you're approaching what seems like a very intensifying experience in the outer world?
Mm-hmm. Well, the approach is always internal. So I look within for anything that I can do personally. So whatever, we each have our own work to do, and it's very individual. So I look to that daily. Beyond that, the externalized realm, the way I view it in terms of an idea, is the healing crises. So I see the world has come now into this great healing crises, where, as in all great healing crises, things are being risen to the surface that need to be transmuted and removed. So I knew this from birth, from before birth, that this was going to be a part of the process of Earth. And we actually have only just begun. 2020 is just the onset of the grand healing crises. And it's really up to us as human beings on this planet to guide that healing crises in whatever direction we choose internally. So, and that's removing anything less than love. So anything less than love that's within us, if we can really get to that work and remove that out of the field of this planet, then we are doing our greatest service to the electromagnetic field, or to the morphogenetic field of this planet. So, it's not to be focused too much externally. It's not that I am uninformed, or I don't actually see what's going on. I do, but if I go too far out into that mass collection of externalized projections, the only place that I know to go to be of any real and true service is within. Mm-hmm. So I just keep going right back to that. We can do it. It doesn't, we can do it in groups. We can do it with our family and our friends. If we feel like a group situation, coming together is often beautiful to, where people gather and have meditation and really are focused internally on the removal of anything less than love, any kind of resistance that comes up. We're not going to fix the problems of the world with an externalized approach. Mm-hmm. We can do, as you say, Frank, we can put good nutrients into the soil, and we can, give it water and sunlight. But beyond that physical foundation, the true changes that have to come about on this earth are from the inside out, with the millions of people that are on the planet right now that have been doing the same work as we have been doing our whole lives for the changes. And we're we know that we knew that this was coming, and we know that it's necessary in order for the massive and very quickening of an evolution to occur. This is a quickening, a very, people were, like so externally focused, running on their daily routines. I had gotten caught into it myself. For a couple of years, I was really caught up into a routine of externalized life, making money to pay the bills, and it wasn't that I ignored the internal process. I was very much aware of that at the same time, but I could feel myself being drawn out into the physical level. And when that became apparent to me that wasn't, for me to do that any farther, then I really pulled back. I made huge changes in 2020. I made those decisions prior to the onset of the mass healing crisis as well. But I gave away and sold almost everything that I held dear, externalized. Kept the things that are very dear to me, like my grandmother's quilts, and I packed them in a U-Haul and went on down the road.
Yeah.
So we have to make these changes when we and it wasn't easy. I'm going to add that to it as well. It was not easy. It was going to be much easier for me to stay in the process of making money and doing that routine, and it might seem easy to have continued that complacency. But what really, in the long term, not only for myself personally, but for for communities and wherever we land, this is where we're going to, if we can stay focused in that internal process and really continually do the work never ends. The internal work never ends, whether we're in this physical body or not. The work just continues and continues, and is a beautiful process that we call life.
On the road to perfection.
Yes, that's interesting, because we do have the perfection within us. When we get to that place in the emotional body and the Christ flame appears, which is always there, by the way, it's what's keeping us in the body. The Christ flame is the connection we have as humans on planet Earth to the earth and the sun. So that flame holds our molecular structure together. So when we get to that place where we have transmuted a lot of our emotional suppressions, pains, hurts, resentments, whatever, when we have removed those from our cellular memory, that flame is more apparent. It becomes more and more and more apparent. We're more aware of it. We see it, or we can be. It can be within us, inside of our body, inside of our head, where in a visualization. But then at certain times, it's being externalized without and taken my whole field, and just expanded into my whole field. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You use the term healing crisis. Do you want to define that for people and explain how that ties into this process of transformation?
Sure. So the healing crisis, basically, where anything...
It sounds like something that no one wants to have, You don't usually invite crises into our lives.
Right.
But healing sounds like a good idea.
I think we could call it a healing chaos. How about that? We could take out the word crises. That's actually a really good idea. So let's call it the healing chaos. So in that chaos, basically what happens when things are brought up, so it's either if we're having our own personal healing crisis, you know, a typical explanation of the healing crisis is it feels worse before it feels better. It looks worse before it feels, you know, it looks better. So I've taken a lot of comfort in that over the years as well. You know, when we're in, you know, intense shifts and changes. So let's call it we're in a global healing chaos. So in that chaos is the perfect environment for change. So when we encourage it and don't offer any resistance to it, but instead offer love, offer forgiveness, offer gratitude, when, you know, like we would in any healing crisis that we would have within our bodies. The same we offer to the what we can see as the Earth's healing chaos, and it's really a beautiful thing. You know, there's changes. Yes, there's you know, people are going on to other realms. There's you know, there's a lot of things happening. There's tremendous loss. And so I'm not saying that with any flippantness. So I know the depth of loss. I know the you know, the powers that that sort of make our attention entrap our intention. And they can do that until we step into the willingness to really be grateful. So anything externalized, anything at all, we can be grateful for. If we can be grateful for anything externalized, it will release the resistance of that hologram and allow the harmonious interplay of electromagnetic fields to take place. So the second we remove our resistance from it, we can just let it be, and we've at least done our part in not keeping it in manifestation.
So you mean even things like the pandemic or the whole forest fires, you know,
Everything.
burning up millions of acres?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything
Anything and everything. We can't have it to our what we like and don't like. Our love, our gratitude, and our forgiveness has to go all the way.
When we see things that are so destructive, that are so creating pain and misery for not just humans, but the whole earth and the whole biosphere.
It's painful. It's very painful.
How can people learn to become grateful for that? For those
grateful is, I would say, the first step into the willingness to what's really their own pain around the observation of that. So it's taking that responsibility. So here I am in British Columbia. We can't go outside because of smoke. We are socked right in. We are socked in. You know, I have mountains very close to me, and there's nothing but white, gray shroud. So in contemplation of that, you know, we wake up, we look, okay. We go outside, take a few breaths, okay, we know what it is. And then, you know, so we've been being indoors for the last few days. We have, you know, it's like the perfect healing crisis. We have no idea how long it's going to last. We have no idea when it's going to end. But guess what? What was really put to me today is trust. Trust, and just be grateful. So that's what I'm practicing. You know, I'm not saying there is an emotion involved, but what I am saying is when an emotion does come forth for me, you know, if the fear rises or the pain loss or the whatever emotion comes, I know what to do.
Possibly anger or
Everything.
sadness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of it. Yeah. So I know what to do with it is I think the most important aspect of the Gnostic Way work. And that's why I'm teaching. So I just changed everything on my website this morning to, I'm not going to charge any money anymore for my work. From now on, I went back and forth all my my life of teaching. So most of my teaching, 99% of it, by the way, is free. I just give, just freely. But, I was giving online sessions, doing some online courses, whatever I'm doing. And of course, I was holding gatherings and will continue to hold gatherings in the future, which I was charging a dollar amount for because of things that I was hearing from externalized voices. What people were doing and saying I'm saying, okay, that makes sense. Or, it was more of an externalized decision-making process. But it really wasn't what it wasn't what my heart wanted to do. My heart wants to give freely wherever people will listen. And this is from now on, I make the commitment, no more dollar amounts. So instead of changing that all, I just put a post, my front post on my website is, please ignore all dollar amounts on my website. And, if there's an exchange made, then and the person really feels to give, then a donation is the, decided donation from their, from their heart is gratefully accepted. But beyond that, I give freely.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of off track there, but yeah, so there's, the externalized process is just that, the externalized process. So, yeah, it's a very interesting and chaotic time to witness. So, we just have to stay focused, stay focused in the three powers.
Mm-hmm.
Always stay focused in those three powers. If we can do that, we remove our resistance from the external hologram, and we, at least with that, have done our part.
And those three things are again?
Love, which of course, I can go on for a month about that. Forgiveness and gratitude. And I say the energies, the internal energies of those things we term with those words. So we go inside and we work until we find the gratitude and we build upon it and we expand it. It can start off just with a glimmer, just with a little glimmer. And if we need, there's sometimes we require an inspiration to find gratitude. So we might, we might have a visual of something that we're grateful for. That can inspire the glimmer, the first moment, the seed of what we call gratitude. And then from there we can expand it and expand it. I love to get to the place of gratitude, and I've witnessed it with myself and many others, where I'm weeping so tremendously, and I've thrown myself onto the grass and onto the ground and just wept into the earth uncontrollably, and with this intensity of gratitude. And these are the places we want to get to. So just those are words, but really turn those words into reality, into the internal reality. Yeah.
That's our challenge.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I feel that's a good place to complete for today.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Frank. I really
Oh, you're
appreciate
welcome.
it. And where are you living? Where are you coming from today?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all the best.
Longing to be back in Colorado.
Oh, yes, you are a Colorado man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all in the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. My love to you, Frank.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine
All
to
the
you.
best. All the best to you and your partner.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Take
Bye,
care.
love. You too.
Bye.
And if you want to do it again, I'm always willing.
Let me know.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
Sure.
Bye.